Remember when the Warriors swept the Blazers in the Western Conference Finals, and the thinking was good, because now they'll have more than a week off, almost a week and a half off, and then KD will be ready for the finals, except he wasn't. DeMarcus Cousins came back first. And then KD traveled to Toronto for the first two games, so the thought was, maybe he doesn't play in the opener, but he'll be ready for game two. But he didn't. And then he was going to return midway through the series, which meant maybe game three. But it wasn't that either. But if not game three, then certainly game four. Then that didn't happen. And now the Warriors are on the brink of elimination. Now we're told he might play because he finally practiced. And again, I think that he will go. But I definitely thought that he would have played by now. Like, I'm pretty sure he'll play tonight, but I was certain that he would have played by now. I mean, we're talking about arguably the best player in the world. One of the most competitive guys ever. There's no debating that. And he's got teammates who are busted up, and they're out there doing whatever they can to keep that dynasty alive. You know that guy wants to be there, right? And we're not talking about some meaningless regular season games either. They're playing for the Larry O. So yeah, the whole thing is weird. It's just weird. And he did practice yesterday, which is good. But as ESPN's Nick Friedel tweeted, quote, if KD got some work in today against the rest of his teammates, it wasn't much. He was one of the first players back in the locker room, and the Warriors weren't on the floor very long to begin with. End quote. So the good news is he practiced. The bad news is they weren't on the floor very long, and he was the first one back in. And then he was seen leaving the arena without a limp. Again, good news. But he had ice on his calf/Achilles. So that might not be so good. I mean, that's the thing, right? Here's the thing. It's impossible to know what's going on. Like, was the injury worse than the Warriors let on in the first place? Or has it gotten worse over time? Is it just gamesmanship by the team? Is it KD? Who the hell knows? Nobody knows. It's just so weird and so bizarre that a two-time Finals MVP, one of the greatest players of all time, has not played in this series, and nobody has any idea if and when he is going to play. That's weird. One of the greatest players ever has been reduced to high-fiving guys in the tunnel at halftime and after games, and yet it's not the biggest story. Nobody really knows what to say about this whole thing. Now, I want to be very clear about this. I didn't open up my mouth and have a bunch of lava come spewing out. This is not about challenging or questioning Durant's toughness. It's not about that. It's certainly not about spinning it into some lame free agency narrative. Not at all. Again, the guy wants to be out there. Any competitor would want to be out there, especially when he knows what's going on. His team is gassed out. They're struggling without him. They need him. And you know when he sees guys like Clay and Looney busting their asses to get back on the court, and Steph Curry and Andre Iguodala and Draymond Green playing through what they're playing through, you know he wants to rejoin that fight. He wants to be out there. Because it's not some January road trip. It's the NBA Finals. What? You think this guy doesn't want a ring? You think he doesn't want another ring? You think he's good with the couple he has? You think he doesn't want to come back tonight and lead the Warriors to 3 straight wins and get another Finals MVP? You think that guy doesn't want to be the guy who leads Golden State back from down 3-1? It would be legendary. It would be an all-time great comeback. You think he doesn't want that? Hell yes, he does. And you know his teammates want him back because that team is busted up and gassing out. Man, they're tough. They're proud. They're good. But they've played more than 500 games over the past 5 years. By my count, tonight will be their 104th playoff game of this run. So that's not only an extra season and a quarter, that's an extra season and a quarter of high-pressure playoff games. Man, it adds up. It takes a toll. It catches up. And that toll is being paid right now by all these guys. Look at them. They're exhausted. They're broken down. They're sitting on empty. And now they've got to go up against a machine in Toronto that was really smart and really careful about managing Kawhi's minutes throughout the regular season. So if there was ever a time for the Warriors to get that injection, that emotional and energetic lift from somebody returning, it's right now. So again, the question, is Kevin Durant going to play tonight? All signs point to yes, at least right now. Then the other question, what kind of a Kevin Durant do you get? What kind of a KD do you get if he does go tonight after over a month and all of one practice? Yeah, I could argue that any percentage of Kevin Durant is better than no percentage of Kevin Durant. But I could also argue this. If that guy's out there, there is no doubt Toronto goes right at him defensively the moment he steps on the floor. If he steps on the floor. They're going to want to test that calf. They're going to want to see what this guy has. And the entire basketball world wants to see it too. I know this much. I don't hear any dopes arguing that Golden State's better without Kevin Durant. Because nobody who matters would have ever tried to argue that point. Brilliant take, dudes who sling lava. You mean you're better without a dude who's got a 7'5" wingspan, who can get his own shot up and over pretty much anybody who has ever played the game whenever he wants. You're better without that guy. And not to mention, that's not the only thing the guy can do to help you. Oh, okay. All right, fine. But I'm telling you, some people will throw any kind of bleep up against the wall just to see whether or not it sticks. That said, as I mentioned earlier, some of this guy is better than none of this guy, but some of this guy in and of itself is not going to be enough to send that thing back to Oakland. They need more. They need somebody else to show up and ball out. He can't be the only one if he does. Clay and Steph cannot play 1.5 on 5 and beat Toronto. So again, my bottom line here, I'm not going to question this guy's toughness. I'm not going to question this guy's willingness to play through what he's dealing with. I think a lot of you have an amazing threshold for his pain. This guy's an all-time great. If he could be out there, I'm sure he would be. But I do want to say, the whole thing is weird. It's just weird. It's just weird that we have no idea. It's just weird that we don't know.